Hey legends, I'm Eliza Lee and you're listening to The Making of an Incredible MD, the podcast for aspiring medical professionals. Last season, we geared you up with a ton of different topics and ethical dilemmas to think about in the medical field. And on this season of the podcast, we're taking you behind the scenes of live MMI Mock Stations that we run for our students who are about to sit their med interviews. So stay tuned for a new station each week and hear a handful of our future med students give it a good old crack. Today on Station 4, we have one of our Monash University examiners who just happens to be our head of GAMSAT and MMIs, Sarah, examining one of our aspiring med students, Jemma. This is a bit of a different situation today because it's an acting station, but the context is Sarah is acting as Jo, who is going to act as a good friend of Jemma's.
Hi, Jemma.
Hi, Jo. You said that you wanted to have a chat, so what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't know, I'm talking to you. Maybe I don't need to worry about it. I think I just needed someone to say hi to.
Oh, okay. But if there's anything that you wanted to sort of mention, I'm always here if you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just really stressed at the moment. Yeah, feeling pretty stressed.
Okay. Is there anything in particular that's stressing you out? Maybe we could talk it through, because usually when I feel stressed, sort of talking through the problem helps it seem a little bit less daunting. So do you think you'd be up to that?
Yeah, I guess so, but I don't feel like people really understand or really get it. So it feels, yeah, I don't
Have you
know.
talked about the problem to someone else already?
Not really. Yeah,
What?
no, I haven't really talked about it to anyone.
Okay, I'm happy to be here if you want to go through the problem, and maybe just even verbalizing it might make it seem a little less scary, and maybe we can work through some of the things that you can do to feel a little bit less stressed, or some of the ways to work through whatever might be bothering you. If you feel comfortable to do that.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's pretty heavy. There's a lot going on. Just like stuff at home and with family, and yeah.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I've had friends that have gone through really difficult things, myself included. So I've definitely been there. I understand sometimes things that are happening at home can seem really overwhelming at times. And I think that that can affect other parts of your life too, especially if you bottle it up inside, or you don't share it. So, I mean, it's completely up to you if you feel maybe ready to talk through it, and is it something with family, or if it's personal life. But I completely understand if you feel like it's not really something that you want to talk about, but also know that if you do, I'm more than happy to talk through it with you.
Thanks, Gemma. Yeah, and it's just been really hard. Like my mum, she was diagnosed with breast cancer a few months ago, and I just feel like I can't really tell anyone because I don't want to stress anyone else out. And everyone
Yeah.
else is, stressed about med, and yeah, I don't know. It's just been really hard.
Well, look, I think that that is so strong and so brave of you, that even though your mum's going through something like that, you are thinking of other people before yourself. But I think it's important for you to recognise how you're feeling in this situation, because that is so difficult to go through, and know that I'm here for you if you need any support through the process. But you're not alone, and you shouldn't feel like you can't share how you feel, because it's important to acknowledge your own feelings through this sort of situation that you're going through. And my thoughts are with your mum, and I hope that she recovers and is feeling better soon. But don't worry about in terms of me being stressed with medicine or anything like that, because it would make me feel more happy knowing that you're less stressed and less worried about things. So yeah, I'm here for you. You don't have to feel like you've got to bottle it up or anything like that.
Oh, thanks. I think I don't know, I'm just deciding what to do. I guess I feel like it's a lot at the moment, and maybe I should just drop out of medical school because yeah, it might just be easier to deal with everything. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like medical school is already so hard without the added pressure of something like that. But I think maybe consulting with some of the medical administrative team, letting them know what's going on and how that's affecting your studies, because I know that medicine's really important to you, but obviously being there for your mum and being there for your family would take a huge emotional toll on yourself. And so maybe if you consult with them, because I don't think you should drop out without at least having a conversation first with them, because I imagine that they would be so understanding of the situation that you're going through and would know that that is such a difficult thing to manage. The stress of medical school and being present every day, knowing that there's something so huge going on with your family. So I think that it'd be a good idea to go to the faculty or someone within the higher level of staff and just let them know the situation that you're going through and see what solutions they might have to suggest. It might even just be something like taking a gap year or taking the semester off so that you can focus on yourself and focus on your family, and then when the time allows, go back to medicine and back to study. So I think you should maybe consider that.
Yeah, I hadn't really, I guess, thought about that. I guess I'd been so bogged down. I didn't really think that was, something I could do. Yeah, I guess, is that what you would do if you were me right now? I just don't want to burden anyone.
No, I don't think that. It's so sweet that you're considering so much about how other people feel. But yeah, I think that's something that I would do, because when something big and major like that is going on that takes such a huge emotional toll, I feel like it would be so difficult to give your effort and your attention to medical exams and placements and all of those sorts of things. And I know how important medicine is to me, but I also know how important my family is. And so when those are so conflicted like that, I think just having a chat with somebody in the faculty and letting them know how conflicted I am in terms of how I feel is something that I think would be worthwhile doing. So I'm glad that you brought it up with me, because then it means that we've been able to think about a solution together. So hopefully you feel a little less overwhelmed, a little less confused with the whole situation.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks, Jemma. I feel a lot better now, and yeah, thanks for letting me chat to you about it. Thanks.
Of course, anytime, whenever you need, just to talk through, you can message me anytime. Even though medicine's busy, I feel like it's never too busy to be able to just help your friend or to talk through problems. So always here.
Thanks.
That's okay.
So now this is Sarah being actual Sarah and giving feedback.
All right, amazing. Firstly, what I like to do is ask about how they went. So what did you think went well?
Well, I haven't done an acting sort of station before, so it was actually really cool to do one of these, because I've done some medical kind of practice interviews the past few weeks with just friends online, but none of us have been keen enough to do an acting type one. So I'm really glad that we could do that, because the uni that I'm applying to, I've heard in the past, also has a lot of acting ones, so I feel like it's really good to get used to them. I think the thing that maybe helped me was I thought of if it was just a friend. Like, I don't have any friends named Joe, but I kind of just imagined that it was like my best friend going through that. And I think that helped a lot, because it just made my advice a lot more genuine. I didn't feel like I had to act or pretend to be a character. I could just sort of fit into the role a lot easier. So I think that definitely helped.
And what do you think, or if you were to do it again, what would you want to do differently?
I'm not actually sure. When you're sort of in the moment, you don't really think. It's a bit hard to think about how you're responding, especially for an acting one. I actually really like them because it's just more natural. Maybe for the sort of scenario ones, you can think, oh, I should have considered that, or maybe I should have taken my time to think about different options. So
yeah, so definitely I really love this station. I do love that it's an acting station as well. And so just to sort of give context for the benefit of people listening to the podcast, having an acting station isn't necessarily part of every med school interview process, but a lot of them do have them. And they feel different to do, because rather than answering a question of what you would do, you have to show yourself doing it. So like with Jemma in this one, rather than her saying, this is how I would console someone when they're stressed, she actually had to show herself doing that. So that's the benefit of acting stations, is that you can't hide behind clever words or hide behind things that you want to say or things that you think would be the right answer. You have to respond in the moment to what's happening to the person in front of you and be there for them. So what I like about what Jemma did was she was very empathetic, and she was very present. She was able to be there for Joe and say, you know what, it doesn't matter what's happening, I'm here for you. And I think with these stations, they really are looking for empathy. They're looking at how you connect with the person, at how you connect with the actor, and how you're able to understand their problem or the situation and respond to that. So I think that was done really well, that it was this real empathetic showing from the get-go, and that came throughout all of the questions. So well done on that. I think with a station like this, it's really hard to get the balance right between listening and talking. What I would encourage practicing is asking a few more questions of the actor. So with Jo, for example, asking her, maybe, how has it affected you that your mum's been sick? Or how's she going at the moment? Has she been getting support? What about you? Have you been getting any support so far? Or maybe when Jo says, I think I should drop out of medical school, maybe, well, why do you want to drop out of medical school? Is it actually medical school that's also a problem? Or is it just mum and mum's unwell? So see, you know, sort of gauging, is Jo even enjoying medical school? Is Jo actually happy where she is? Or is she just, you know, doing med on top of having family difficulties and having a real like stressful hardship in her family? So definitely balancing a little bit more with asking some questions. But yes, you've shown this really great deep level of empathy, which is fantastic. In terms of what I really like that Jemma did as well for everyone listening, is when Jo mentioned, I feel really stressed, I think I should drop out of medical school, rather than Jemma just saying, yeah, okay, do what you feel like, she gave advice about what Jo could do first. And I think that that's really important, is that often the actor will provide you with a solution to their problem, but they'll often be closed-minded about it. So they'll be so focused on their problem that they'll have a short-term solution, or they'll have a rash solution. It gives you a chance to think about it more logically and show that you're a logical thinker. So Jemma did an awesome job with that. She went, well, hang on a second, why don't you look at some supports or go talk to the faculty first? Like, don't just suddenly decide, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And so I think that really important, if you can slow down enough to think about, rather than just saying, yes, do that or don't do that, what other avenues the actor or the person in the scenario can take. So I really liked that. I thought that was really good. In terms of what they're looking for in these kinds of stations overall, they're looking for you being able to empathize and be understanding. So really loved that. I think Jemma did really well with that. They're also looking for your ability to just be human, bring down that guard of being a little more rigid, or maybe having a really rigid response. And I liked that it did feel like a conversation. And so if you're practicing actor stations at home with friends, checking to see, does it feel like a conversation? Because if it doesn't, then it's probably a little too forced or a little too rehearsed. So I like to use that as my sort of rule of thumb of if this is working and if the way I'm responding is kind of working for me. However, still a good structure of response is important. I liked that Jemma sort of had a key thing she kept going back to, which was, I'm here for you. Like, I don't mind what's going on. It doesn't matter what's going on. I have time to listen, and like, you're important to me. So I thought that was really good. I think though that same thing of not over repeating things just for the sake of repeating them. So if you start to run out of ideas of things to say for the line that the actor's just given you, that would be a good time to ask one of those follow-up questions to see if there's more vital information that they can give you. And if they have nothing else, then you can just reiterate sort of your main statement, which is, okay, well, I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. Yeah. And I think most of all in these stations, in these scenarios, it's about showing that you know how to prioritize the person and what their problem is, and know the sorts of things to think about. So with that final question, what would you do if you were me right now? Very common question to get asked in these kinds of stations. And what's great about this question is that it gives you an opportunity to bring it back to you a little bit more or personalize it a little bit. So I love how Jemma then brought in her values. So she brought in, well, I value my family and medical school, and I'm sure that you value your family too. Like, life's not just all about med, and life's not just all about mum. So if you get a question where you get an opportunity to express what you would do, you can show, or you can let shine a little bit more what your key values are or what the things are that matter to you, then link that back to the actor. So do it not in a forced way, but a very authentic way. And it's an opportunity if you want to share a story and relate to them. So maybe even there, Jemma could have said, I don't really understand what it's like to have someone that's sick in my family, but there was a time when XYZ, when this happened to my dad and it was really hard, or when, you know, my dad had to move away for work and I didn't know what to do, and I know how it feels not to know what to do. So you can bring in your own story if you want as well. You don't have to, but bringing in experiences can also strengthen your response. So that's something that you can pre-prepare without it sounding forced, is pre-prepare a couple of life experiences that you would potentially be happy with sharing in a med interview setting. And then if you do get the opportunity to share them, you can bring them up in a very organic way. But overall, I think that Jemma did a terrific job, especially because this is the first time she's done one of these stations, and you can really tell that she brought herself to the station and was just talking to Joe like a friend, which is the whole idea of these. So well done. Do you have any other questions, Jemma?
Thanks, Sarah. That was so useful. I just have one. So when I was, I can't remember which question it was, but I kind of had a thought in the back of my mind about asking how her mum is, or how she's progressing or anything like that. And I think you mentioned a really good point, which is to ask questions in terms of how Joe is coping, the reasons for dropping out of medical school, which I think are really great questions that I could have thought to ask. But in terms of her mum, do you feel like that could potentially be sort of too personal, probing too much, especially because at the start she said that she hadn't told anyone, and it sort of seemed like she was a bit uncomfortable and a bit hesitant to say anything at all. So I feel like maybe if I had mentioned sort of specifics about her mum, maybe it would have been too much in that conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that point, because I do agree. I agree that, and Joe mentioned this is the first person I've told about this. Joe was really hesitant. Joe took a few lines to even mention what was going on. So I agree, probably asking about specifics about it, Joe might not feel comfortable with. It took a while just to get out what was happening. So probably wouldn't be best to ask such a specific question. And that's actually a really good one for everyone listening, is if you're going to give a follow-up question, just thinking about how would this follow-up question affect the actor in the scenario or affect them. So thinking about something sensitive. So I agree. It probably would be a little too sensitive to ask, you know, is your mum terminally ill, for example? Probably not okay. Or how's your mum's cancer even? Or is it spreading, or something might be a little too sensitive. So instead you can instead relate it back to them and go, how has it affected you? Or even how's your and your mum's relationship? And then it's still about, oh, I care about how your mum's going, but I'm not actually asking about the cancer or whatever's going wrong. And so then it feels less intrusive.
Thank you so much. That was so helpful.
Provide a bit of a conclusion or a wrap up to that station. Jemma did a fantastic job. One of her strengths was definitely showing empathy and being able to be very real with the actor, which was fantastic. Really showed her ability to be there and listen and understand something that's going on. A definite thing to work on would be asking more questions, so that there's more of a balance of working out what's happening and how the actor in the scenario, how the person is really feeling. Something that I think is really beneficial with these kinds of stations is that you can practice with someone who really knows you. So I just spoke to Jemma about this off the recording, but for everyone, if you would like to practice an acting station, it's really easy to come up with a scenario. So you can come up with either an emotive problem or issue, such as the one that we did today. All that I came up with was, okay, I'm going to be Joe, who is feeling really stressed because her mum's sick. And then you can allow a friend to practice that with you and just have a conversation and see how the conversation pans out. You could alternatively pick a different kind of issue, such as conflict in a relationship and someone not knowing how to work through that conflict. And then the person practicing the station would have to know how to give advice about conflict resolution. Or maybe it's about being in a group project or being in a group or a friendship group and things happening there. So there are lots of ways that you can put together a station like this and then practice it. The great thing about practicing these kinds of stations with your friends is that they really know you and they know what sides of you are best to show. So a good friend would be able to tell you, well, actually, I know you're a good listener, but you seem really nervous, so you're not really listening anymore. Or maybe, you tend to rush a lot and you're rushing right now. So practicing these kinds of stations with friends is a really good idea if you can, or even with someone who's not trying to get into medical school, mum or dad or a family member, someone else who's a friend, they can still give you advice on how you've responded to the station, even if they don't really know what's expected of you in an MMI. So this is a really good station to be able to practice with people that you know. So I hope that you enjoyed that, and good luck practicing acting stations, and good luck to everyone who's going to be the pretend person in the station. Hope that you can get your Oscar level acting on, and we'll see you next time.